Now you need to cut the judges a break here. They try, and in most cases they succeed in being fair arbiters of the law. They are neutral. So if you are ignorant of the law, it is because the supreme authority is allowing you to be ignorant. If the judge attempts to reveal the law to either party in a conflict, then it is the judge who is on the wrong side of divine law. However, my problem with judges is they do not sit on the bench all the time. They have sworn an oath not to ever teach a man the law. To act as an honest broker, we need to know if the judge is operating with a conflict, and we must know if he indeed knows the law. Outside of court, he should be out demonstrating that fitness and helping others out of the fictional morass instead of clamming up and leaving everyone twisting in the wind. The oath to never reveal the law outside of their duty as a judge creates victims and therefore runs afoul of divine law. I know for a fact there are many judges out there who welcome men and women who understand the law into their court. And in fact, you will find no greater advocate for your position than a judge who realizes that you know the law. However, you're required to demonstrate to the judge that you understand divine law. Even better, if you do understand the principles that I teach here, you will never have a need to come before an arbiter to settle any kind of disagreement. Why? Because you'll never be able to create a victim. So therefore, there'll be no conflict. Also, with regard to banks and creditors, they already understand that they have no real divine force in any of these fictional contracts that they bandy about. And when you refuse to pay or terminate the relationship, and can demonstrate to them very clearly of your understanding of divine law, oftentimes their legal department will advise them just to leave you alone. If they suspect that you don't understand divine law, they may press the issue. It is your responsibility to notify them properly of your acute understanding of divine law, such that they can know unequivocally that you are in full control of your own property. Here are some other things that a sovereign needs to understand. The created is never more powerful than its creator. I am a man. I create fiction. Fiction is not more powerful than I. I have the power to walk away anytime I choose. The supreme authority created me. It has the power to walk away from me whenever it so chooses. Ignorance of the law is no excuse. If you have a constructive relationship with the supreme authority, then you will have the divine law when you need it. Those who are not in possession of their faculties or have turned away from the supreme authority are, under divine law, to be judged incompetent and subject to the prevailing authority. They cannot be held to the terms of any real contract. They have no power and are at the mercy and compassion of others. Unfortunately, in our case, those others could care less if the incompetent live or die. Another principle that a sovereign must be aware of is that if one asks permission, it's assumed under divine law and by the supreme authority that they need permission. We have been conditioned to voluntarily submit to authority. We see a man in a uniform and we just bend right over. Now the supreme authority honors our wish and is more than happy to put that authority over us when we choose to. Why? Because we violate Rule 1 once again. And this is another way a sovereign deprives themselves of their sovereignty. Let's take it one step further. We each have within us an interface that allows things to be transferred from what is called the subconscious to our conscious minds. It is a means by which our behaviors, thoughts, emotions, and ideas can be modified behind the scenes and introduced as behaviors in our experience. This process we know of as hypnosis. When a person is hypnotized, all manner of thoughts, behaviors, ideas, and even false memories can be introduced into our subconscious, such that our conscious minds cannot determine the source of these memories, ideas, thoughts, and emotions. Some people cannot be hypnotized, and the reason why is because they do not trust the hypnotist. This is a very important thing to understand. The hypnotist has no power unless the person being hypnotized trusts them without condition. It's only then the hypnotist gains access to this interface and can introduce this stuff into the hypnotized person's mind. In this way, anytime we place trust in anything, be it a man, an idea, a concept, a piece of paper, or anything in the universe, we can become hypnotized by it. Why? Because if we trust the source without condition, they can introduce these things into our subconscious, and they become real in our consciousness, and we are unable to distinguish where these thoughts and ideas come from. It's very important where one places their trust. If it's not placed only in the supreme authority, then we leave ourselves open to introduce all sorts of nonsense into our behavior, and we are unable to discover the source of this aberration. Anytime we place trust in something that is not the supreme authority, we become hypnotized by that information. It's a very important thing to understand. Many people are hypnotized. For instance, if you trust your teacher and she hands you a book and says, "Read this, it's the truth," and you trust her that what you read is the truth, then it becomes assimilated as part of you. The book itself could be absolute nonsense. Now what you've done is introduced absolute nonsense into your experience. You're often the only person that's subject to that nonsense, and you're the one that pays the price. So be mindful where you place your trust. This is the reason I tell you not to trust me. Your trust is not well placed with me. However, your trust is well placed with the supreme authority, and in that way you can be protected from any kind of nonsense that is introduced into your environment. Now you have to understand, you carry these things around with you. One by one, you're going to have to untie them and test which assumptions that you hold as truth are indeed the truth. If you're able to do this one by one, eventually you will arrive in a completely different perceptual model. Now, some time back, I mentioned how lies are not helping you, and I'd like to go into that a little further. There is a concept in law that's understood as the truth reigns supreme. It's also related to trial by combat. This is also related to muscle testing and why muscle testing works. Trial by combat, or truth reigns supreme, is based on the principle that a knight who is false cannot prevail in single combat. Now, the reason this works is the self tries to bring the truth to the observer. The self is collective. Between two men who have some sort of conflict, one of them is in the right and one of them's in the wrong, often. And when they meet, they go to trial. You have an independent arbiter that we know of as a judge, and he oversees the combat. Now, in the old days, during the days of chivalry, they would just go out there and hack one another to death with a sword. The knight that won was true, the other one was false. Now, what happens is the same as in muscle testing. When it's false, the self transmits weakness to the body. If it's true, the body remains strong. So when you're in conflict between these two, the strong one has the power. Now, this is done simply to demonstrate who was right. I love this game. I really love this game. Roage.